evening, everybody. We're going to begin the meeting tonight. Welcome to the September 8th meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. Hearings before this commission are quasi-judicial in nature. This is a design review process to determine whether a proposed project is congruous with the special character of the historic district or landmark in which it's located. Decisions of the Commission are based on the record of these proceedings, the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks, and the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. Evidence submitted to the Commission for review will become part of the record. Appeal of a Commission decision must be submitted to the Wilmington Board of Adjustment within 30 days of the date of the Commission's action. Further appeal must be submitted to Superior Court. Evidence pertaining to an agenda item must be presented during the evidentiary portion of that item. Individuals who wish to address the Commission will be sworn in as witnesses to present material and substantial evidence. The Chair will recognize each witness who wishes to address the Commission during the evidentiary portion. In order to ensure that witness evidence is properly recorded, each individual should come to the podium and clearly state their name and address before addressing the Commission. As a brief reminder, members of the Commission are appointed by and serve at the pleasure of City Council. Our charge is with respect to the protection and preservation of properties located within the city's designated historic districts. The Commission is held to the requirement of the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks, as well as the applicable North Carolina state law. We are to determine whether exterior changes to a building are congruous with the special character of the city's historic districts. It is important that the Commission deliberate the merits of each request in a manner that provides a record of the basis for our decisions. Please remember our deliberations should be centered on how a project meets the Wilmington Design Standards and whether the changes are congruous. Commissioners, if you have received or been made aware of any information outside this evidentiary hearing related to any agenda item before the Commission, please recuse yourself from that agenda item. Before the meeting begins, please ensure that all cell phones are in silent mode or turned off. Tonight we have the city staff to help us. Ms. Melissa Huffman, Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Linda Painter, Planning Director, Ms. Jessica Baldwin, Historic Preservation Planner, Ms. Amy Bradshaw, Planning Coordinator, Ms. Megan Basic, Associate Planner. I think I got everybody. My name is Kathleen Egan. I'm the chair, and my fellow commissioners will please introduce yourselves.
Stephen Sulkey.
Christopher Yermel.
Ron Wilson.
Michael Smith.
Thank you. We will now swear in those present who wish to present evidence related to an agenda item.
If I can have all staff, applicants, and anyone in the public in the audience who will be speaking this evening to please stand up and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
The last part of the administrative portion of the meeting is review of the minutes for any suggested edits or corrections of the draft minutes from our last meeting. Please bring them to our attention. No, we're good. All right. Can I have a motion then to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll move to the evidentiary portion of the meeting. And the first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing with respect to 1406 Orange Street and 213 South 14th Street as a landmark designation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Today we have a public
hearing for an application for the designation of local landmark at 1406 Orange Street and South 14th Street, 213 South 14th Street. 1406 Orange Street and 213 South 14th Street were submitted for designation as a local landmark by the Commission on African American History and the owners Linward and Joanne Simpson. 1406 Orange Street and 213 South 14th Street are adjoining lots located on the south side of Orange Street and the east side of South 14th Street. The property is located within the Westbrook-Ardmore National Register Historic District. The Westbrook-Ardmore National Register Historic District report notes that the area that makes up the district was purchased in 1922 by the Home Realty Company. The development of roads, sidewalks, the divisions of lots, and the construction of new dwellings began almost immediately following. While a large part of the area was completely developed by the mid-1920s, construction continued well into the 20th century. A 1926 article from the Wilmington's Morning Star stated that Ardmore was the last subdivision which would be placed on the market within the present city limits. The Great Depression brought most construction to a halt, but the area saw a resurgence post-World War II, leading to further growth. Here in this slide, you'll see ads and a development plan for areas in and around Westbrook-Ardmore. Also included is an ad for the Crescent Heights, which was a development abutting Westbrook specifically designed for the Black community of Wilmington. 1406 Orange Street and 213 South 14th Street are referred to as the DeCover House in the district report. The house was built in 1929 and is the pink dot on this map shown in the gray historic district. The DeCover family never owned the home but rented the house until sometime before the 1940 census. In 1945, Dr. Hubert Eaton Sr. and his wife Celeste purchased the house in the rear adjoining lot. They continued to live in the home until Dr. Eaton Sr.'s death in 1991. The current owner, Linward Simpson, and his wife Joanne purchased the house in 2008. As described by the National Register report, the house is a one-story side gable dwelling with a steeply pitched roof and engaged porch. The porch is supported by paired posts on brick piers. The front facade windows are a tripartite grouping, and the front entry features a 4-panel door with a transom. A brick chimney accents the west facade, and a hipped roof bay accents the eastern facade. There are 2 side gable additions that were constructed along the east and west facades by the Eatons in 1948, most likely around the same time the tennis court was constructed. The tennis court is located to the southeast of the house and is a standard regulation size court. The court is fenced in with chain link and features a privacy hedge along the north and east. Here in the sketch, you can see the relation of the house to the court and the 2 wings added along the east and west facades. Also pictured here is a column from the real estate section of the Wilmington Morning Star noting Dr. Eaton's plans for a new garage that is no longer extant. Dr. Hubert Eaton Sr. was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He graduated from Johnson C. Smith University and went on to attend the University of Michigan, where he earned his MD in 1942. Dr. Eaton Sr. was an avid tennis player and the first African American to win the North Carolina Interscholastic Tennis Championship in 1932. He continued to play for much of his life. In 1946, Dr. Eaton observed Althea Gibson during an American Tennis Association tournament. There, he learned of her potential as well as her lack of education, as Gibson had dropped out of school at the age of 13. Dr. Eaton arranged for Althea to move to Wilmington and live with he and his family at 1406 Orange Street. Gibson attended Williston School and began training at the Eaton's home court. She trained, practiced, and studied with Dr. Eaton and Dr. Robert Johnson on the regulation court at 213 South 14th Street while living at 1406 Orange. Gibson went on after graduating Williston in 1949 to attend Florida A&M University on a tennis scholarship. She then became the first African American to win a Grand Slam, including the French Open, the U.S. Open, and Wimbledon. Gibson would eventually be inducted into the Court of Champions. Dr. Eaton Sr. was critical in the fight to integrate professional sports through his teaching and training of Althea Gibson. He was also influential on a local level in the integration of Wilmington's healthcare and education systems. Dr. Eaton Sr. served as the chief staff physician at the community hospital, and according to author John L. Goodwin in Black Wilmington and the North Carolina Way, quote, it was Dr. Hubert Eaton who emerged as the instrumental figure in the drive that finally got underway in 1950 for the equalization of black schools, end quote. Dr. Eaton helped to organize the black community, and on March 12, 1951, Dr. Eaton and his supporters filed a lawsuit noting that black and white schools of New Hanover County were separate but not equal. Goodwin also notes this lawsuit set the community-wide movement for civil rights into motion. Dr. Eaton Sr. went on to become the first black member of the UNCW Board of Directors and continued throughout his life to fight for the equality of black Wilmingtonians. Today, 1406 Orange Street and 213 South 14th Street are home to One Love Tennis, the Lenny Simpson Tennis and Education Fund. Mr. Simpson grew up in Wilmington, one block from the Eatons, and after years of playing, coaching, and traveling, Mr. Simpson started One Love Tennis in 2013. He helped the students at Wilmington's Glow Academy connect with the U.S. Tennis Association and set up a letter-writing campaign to the USTA asking for Althea's accomplishments to the history of organized tennis be acknowledged. This campaign led to the statue at Arthur Ashe Stadium in Queens, New York of Althea, further cementing her place in American history. Mr. Simpson also led the charge for the 2019 restoration of the tennis courts at 213 South 14th Street. The court had fallen into disrepair, but with Mr. Simpson's guidance, the court was returned to its original beauty and established a place for the children of One Love Tennis to play and practice. Mr. Simpson was inducted into the Southern Tennis Hall of Fame in 2020 and has long been an advocate of the community around him. Today, Mr. Simpson continues the tradition of Dr. Hubert Eaton Sr. and Althea Gibson, striving for success and equality on and off the tennis court. The Historic Preservation staff notes that the designation of 1406 Orange Street and 213 South 14th Street aligns with the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan as a place that is a historic resource to the built environment of Wilmington. Staff also notes that the property meets the criteria for designation under Section 2 of the City of Wilmington's local landmark ordinance by age. The dwelling is 93 years old, and the tennis court and additions are over 50. Also under Section 2, the property has special significance as an especially important site associated with persons and groups that have contributed significantly to the heritage, culture, and development of Wilmington through not only Althea Gibson's residency, but also Dr. Eaton Sr.'s long history of fighting for equality for black Wilmingtonians. Lastly, staff notes the high level of integrity to the home and the tennis court. The house and court appear very much as they did when Dr. Eaton Sr. and his family and Althea Gibson lived in the home and played on the court. Staff strongly supports the designation of 1406 Orange and 213 South 14th Street as a local landmark.
Are there any questions for staff? Do we have any members of the public who wanted to offer comments?
Good evening, Commissioners. I hope you all are well. Travis Gilbert, 211 Orange Street from the Historic Wilmington Foundation. Also want to point out a few folks in the audience. We have Evelyn Bryant and Willie Black from the City of Wilmington's Commission on African American History, and some special guests from Cape Fear Community College. Our Level 1 Historic Preservation Trades construction class is here observing you all this evening. So thank you all both for being here. The Historic Wilmington Foundation just wanted to express their enthusiastic support for the Eaton House, listed as a local landmark for the City of Wilmington. We believe the Eaton House meets the criteria for local landmark designation, including age, special significance, and integrity. As staff noted, construction 1929, the Eaton House meets the age criteria for landmark designation. The property is a contributing resource in the Westbrook-Ardmore National Register Historic District. And as the home of Dr. Eaton beginning in 1945, the property exemplifies the special significance and outstanding way of the political, social, and cultural heritage of our great city here, Wilmington. Dr. Eaton contributed significantly to the heritage of Wilmington as a lifelong civil rights advocate, dedicated to the equality and racial justice here in our community. Thanks to Dr. Eaton, several facilities were desegregated, including the municipal golf courses, schools, and hospitals, to name a few. Finally, as staff noted, the Eaton House retains integrity through many of the 7 aspects that define integrity according to your local landmark criteria, including location, setting, materials, workmanship, and association. The historic property is located at the site of significance, and the property's setting retains integrity due to multiple contributing resources to the Westbrook-Ardmore National Register Historic District located within this block. As a craftsman bungalow, the house retains the materials and workmanship representative of the early 20th century, including, as staff noted, doors, windows, siding, and engaged porch posts. Most importantly, the property serves as a direct link to Dr. Eaton and many others, since it was his home during the height of the civil rights movement. I just want to note that designating the Eaton House as a local landmark will continue to the cultural and geographic diversity of our growing local landmark program here in the city of Wilmington. No other local landmark, to my knowledge, is designated within the Westbrook-Ardmore National Register Historic District. I think that's noteworthy. And I commend the commission because the last local landmark application before you was also a new introduction in terms of geographic diversity, and that was out in Mason-Borough Sound National Register Historic District. Additionally, I think the bungalow style is not represented by current local landmarks. So we, as the Historic Wilmington Foundation, are encouraged by efforts to further protections for Black historic sites through the local landmark program here in the city of Wilmington. We appreciate all the efforts and endeavors with the community to make this possible. We appreciate the staff's research and due diligence to make tonight possible. We look forward to sending this on to City Council with your recommendation. Thank you all.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments regarding this application for recommendation? Okay, the commission has been requested to recommend this designation as a local landmark. Are there any comments or questions?
I'd like to make a comment. I'm extremely pleased to see this recommendation and application come before us. I had the privilege of working with Dr. Eaton a few years before he retired as a surgeon. I gave the anesthetic. He was a good surgeon and a gentleman to work with. His significance to this community has certainly been spoken about tonight, but his championed equal education through his suit, Eaton versus the Board of Education, to make schools more equitable in this community. His book, Every Man Should Try, is wonderful. I got to work with his son, Dr. Eaton Jr. I went to high school with his daughter, and I graduated from UNCW with Dr. Eaton Jr.'s wife. So I'm thrilled to see this happen, this property to be recognized and saved. So I certainly can support it.
Any other commissioners?
I just wanted to thank Ms. Baldwin, too, for her report to Cultural Resources for making all this happen and to make that part of it work for the applicant also. So.
Mr. Smith, would you like to
I'd be happy to. I move to approve the request to recommend the designation as a local landmark to help protect and document its historic integrity and its cultural significance for the property located at 1406 Orange Street and 213 South 14th Street. The dwelling is 93 years old. The tennis courts are approximately 70 years old. The property exemplifies special historical and cultural heritage as the former home of Dr. Huber Eaton Sr., a leader in civil rights movement in Wilmington, and a temporary home and training facility for Althea Gibson, international tennis star. The property exemplifies a high level of integrity. The Commission finds that the property's associated history, exterior features, and tennis court alone are sufficient citywide value that landmark designation without interior review will contribute substantially to the goals of pleasure, education, and cultural enrichment to the citizens of Wilmington and the public at large. This motion is based on the application submittals, recommendation of the State Historic Preservation Office, and the age, significance, and integrity of the property.
Do I hear a second?
Second. Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We next move to the evidentiary hearing, new business for 419 North 7th Street. The staff could give their report.
Hello, my name is Megan Basic. I'm an associate planner at the City of Wilmington, and I'll be presenting on 419 North 7th Street tonight. The applicant seeks the approval of an after-the-fact installation of a fence on a corner lot. 419 North 7th Street was built in 1975. The one-story brick building features a large overhang hipped roof with a projecting gable-roofed front entry hood. The entry hood is supported by two decorative metal columns. At the rear southeast corner, a small patio is covered by the building's hipped roof. The subject property is located at the southwest corner of Red Cross and North 7th Streets, with the main entry facing North 7th Street. The building is a non-contributing resource in the Historic District Mixed Use District. Revisions to all facades of a building and the site are subject to design review in this district. The after-the-fact 4-foot-tall wood picket fence is installed at the rear patio and along Red Cross Street and North 7th Street. Along Red Cross Street, the fence is set back 16 inches from the sidewalk, while along North 7th Street, the fence is set back 20 inches from the sidewalk. Landscape shrubs were removed from the front, east, and side north facades and replaced with sod to accommodate the installation of the new fence. A chain link fence at the rear of the building was removed as well. An after-the-fact 6-foot-tall wood vertical board fence is installed along the rear west property line between 419 North 7th Street and 616 Red Cross Street. The fence is installed with a setback of 14 inches from the western property line. The fence extends into the southern adjacent property, 415 North 7th Street, which is also owned by the applicant. Staff notes that the after-the-fact fence does not block the view of the property or its adjacent neighbors from the public right-of-way. The design standards state that new fences should be constructed at a height no greater than 4 feet in front yards and 6 feet in the rear yards. At this time, staff would like to enter the staff report in its entirety into the record of tonight's proceedings.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Okay. Thank you. Now we would open up the evidentiary portion to members of the public. Oh, I'm sorry, nope, the applicant would like to provide additional evidence or answer questions if they're here. Just remember to give your name and address so we can get it in the minutes.
Sam Camblin, 419 North 7th.
I can't hear him. Could you raise the
Sir,
microphone up
if
a
you
little
could speak into the microphone, thank you.
Samuel Camblin, 419 North 7th. Were there any questions?
Okay. No questions.
Well, I want to apologize for wasting the resources. This is, I would like to think that it would have been approved if the paperwork had been filed. But at this point, you know, it's already installed. and just looking for grace in your decision. Hopefully, it would have, like I said, met the requirements, but I don't really have any additional detail to add to it that wasn't provided by Megan.
I just have a question. Are you intending to paint it or leave it this natural color?
I would like to, but I understand that painting brick, I learned
No, I mean the
that painting the
fence.
brick is oh no, not the fence.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on the fence? No? Then we'll close the evidentiary portion and move to commissioner deliberation.
Can staff go to the previous photograph where it had the shrubbery and things in the front? Yeah, that one, that's good. Well, I hate, excuse me, from a personal standpoint, I really think the shrubbery that was there did the job of acting as a barrier to keep people off the property. I just hate that it was all removed and this little fence put up there. And so I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that total aspect of it. And I'm not sure how I would have felt, you know, if it would have come before the commission as an appropriate certificate or application. So I guess part of me is trying to understand the real reason for the fence. And it's again hard for me to kind of do that. So
I mean, the shrubs in themselves wouldn't have required a COA for removal. So if they had simply removed the shrubs and not placed anything, they wouldn't need an approval for that. The fence was placed and it is 4 feet tall along the sides facing the street and 6 feet tall at the rear. It's here because it's a corner lot and requires approval no matter what they would have put there.
thank you.
Are there any pictures of anything in the block or area that would make this congruous with the neighborhood?
Immediate neighbors, no, simply because they are set up as more commercial style buildings, whereas this has that like a look between residential and commercial. Across the street's a church, and then to the back and the side are residential style buildings, and then across the street are commercial buildings.
But
It's rather unique in
we
where
don't
it is in
see
its neighbors.
anything that makes this congruous. There are no pictures of other properties, et cetera, that make this congruous to the blocks. Is that correct?
I thought there were some in the application.
In the application, there were some.
Okay.
There are listed
Okay.
projects. I will say that for this specific district, there really hasn't been anything that's come forward asking for approval for fences, let alone corner lots. I went for our entire district for the HDMU to try to find something, and I found 2.
Just a correction on what you have here. That's not South 7th and Dock. You have 419 North 7th Street from corner of South 7th and Dock. That's not correct.
Sorry, do you mind telling me which page?
The one that's on the screen now, it says dock instead of Red Cross?
I apologize.
It says South 7th. It should be
Yes,
North.
yes, that is my mistake. It should be Red Cross.
Yep. And North 7th.
And Red Cross.
Was there someone who, we can reopen the evidentiary portion if someone would like to come forward and answer some, or address this?
My name is Carl Murphy, 1017 South 8th Street. This particular property on 419 North 7th, I'm the occupant there. At this time, it's a barber and beauty shop. Been there now 6 years. And answering to his question about the shrubs, those particular shrubs there was loaded with poison ivy. And I have a lot of kids that come to my shop and trying to keep them out of that poison ivy. And if you can see right there at the corner of the building coming towards the sidewalk is a fence, which was tore up and very, very rusty. And before he owned this particular building, Dr. Goss owned it. And I asked him numerous times, you know, could I remove the shrubs and that fence because it was dangerous. And I had kids going around all the time. And that was the only reason that we really put it up to, you know, because something happened to a kid, it was on our watch, and we didn't want nothing like that to happen. And had a lot of compliments, I'm sorry, about the fence, but that was the only reason we removed the shrubs, because it was loaded with poison ivy all the way around the building. Okay, thank you.
That's helpful, thank you. All right, then that will close the evidentiary portion again. And
I have a comment, perhaps for staff or anybody that can. I do believe that the height is within the standard along the front and the side. It looks like in the back, the rear portion that rises to 6 feet, that it's just board on board. But on the side and front, there's a space between them, just kind of rough pickets that are just squared off. Though there is some setback from the sidewalk, I have concerns that, particularly on corner properties, that fences are coming up to the sidewalk, even in the rear, impeding the view or the visual pleasure of the next property. We've talked about that, but and if they come up, then you're really sometimes, particularly if it's a cottage, you're right on the next house before it ever appears in your vision sight. One concern I have that the rear portion kind of be stepped down as it comes gradually, so that the 6 foot does not come right up to the sidewalk, so to speak, even though it looks like there's a foot or two of setback there. But
It's, the rear portion there is 18 inches from their property line, and then it's another 5 or 6 feet to the house that's behind, that you see there behind you.
right, but whether it's at the back of the property or not, it's visually, for me, it is that 6 feet coming right up to the end of the fence.
Well, to me, the standard is 6 foot in the rear, and that definitely, to me, looks like it's the rear of this property, which is facing North 7th. I mean, 6 foot is 6 foot. Just because it turned out this way, I don't see where there's any violation of standard.
Well,
yeah, I agree, I think it meets the standards.
well, we've certainly talked about, just in the last couple of months, a fence that was proposed to come right up to the sidewalk between the adjoining property. And
Mr. Smith, can you speak into the microphone a little bit more? Thank you.
just in a few months, we've actually had a property request to bring a 6 foot fence right up to the sidewalk, and we turned it down. And I don't see what this, just stepping it down, I'm not, just a transition so that it's not rising right at the corner there, that there's some, as you come down that sidewalk, walking towards the house, that it's more will be visible of the first floor of that house in the rear.
If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the instance you're talking about, it was coming up to the front of their house, whereas this is coming up behind their house.
No, it was
it?
the house on 7th Street, South 2nd Street. The brick structure, they wanted to, had the knee wall, and they wanted to put the but down the side, their request
but that
was
was
to bring
coming
the
to-
6-foot fence to the street.
Right, but it was to the front of their house. This is to the back of their house, so it's a difference.
It's a corner property. It's all still visible, which is why it comes before us, but
I personally don't have a problem with it, but
Can I have a motion then?
I move to approve with conditions the request for the after-the-fact installation of a fence on the corner of 419 North 7th Street. Details are shown on the drawings, plans, photographs, submittals, and narrative statement contained in the application and supplemental materials, and statements made at this meeting are part of this request unless otherwise noted. This motion is based on the evidence presented before us, the application submittals, testimony, staff report, including the findings of fact. The following conditions shall be applied to ensure compliance with the design standards, those set forth in the staff report 1 to 3. The proposed request with conditions does comply with the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks, is compatible with the materials, features, design, context, and character of the historic building and the historic district in which it is located, and is congruous with the site, streetscape, and historic aspects of the historic district residential as a whole. Applicable design standards 1.6, Secretary of the Interior Standards 1 and 3, 2.3, fences and walls 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
no.
Motion's passed. The evidentiary hearing, and we'll now have items from the commission.
All right. So I'm just going to review with you all the Historic Preservation Commission's annual report. This is a brief overview of the report, informing the commission and public of the previous fiscal year. The commission reviewed 56 cases during the fiscal year of 2022, beginning in July of 2021 to June of 2022. The majority of cases were exterior alterations, which include chimney removals, porch modifications, and so forth. New construction, as well as door and window and paint modifications, were the next most reviewed project, and that was followed by landscaping and fencing. One application was withdrawn and one application was denied. Historic Preservation staff reviewed a total of 207 bypass applications. The majority of bypass applications are for minor exterior alterations, which include in-kind window and door replacements. This is followed by landscaping and site alterations. Here, the other category includes restoration of elements in an interior landmark, which is the church on Chestnut Street. A COA approved by the commission in August of 2021 for 207 South 2nd Street added approximately 250 square feet to the dwelling, and as you can see, work continues in an appropriate manner. In November of 2021, the HPC approved a partial rear demolition and construction of a new addition and accessory building at 312 South 3rd, and as you can see, construction continues today. To the date of June 30th, zoning enforcement has been monitoring 51 demolition by neglect cases. These less cases were closed out in the fiscal year of 2022 than previous years due to contractor shortages and supply chain issues happening in Wilmington and across the country. Several building owners that have been issued demo by neglect notifications were able to see some progress at rehabilitating their dwelling, including this one in Carolina Heights, Winnetka Terrace overlay at 208 North 17th Street. Preservation staff maintains a group of lists. These lists are used to monitor potential local landmarks. Currently, the system to maintain those landmarks is under review, and next our goal is to be able to reflect those lists in our annual report. These lists help lead to designation of local landmarks. Pictured here are 7 of the 8 locally designated landmarks. Annual inspection occurs for 3 of these. Those pictured here are 712 Chestnut, the Chestnut Street Presbyterian Church, Efra's Einstein Department Store, and the former fire station number 5. These 3 landmarks have interior features that are part of their designation, which is why annual inspection occurs. Finally, just a quick glance at the 10-year trends of for preservation staff and the commission. As you can see, it's relatively consistent through the years with minor influxes, but overall bypass applications stay around 200 a year, and one major work's about 50. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions about the report?
Will there be a publication of this, or will it be available in a document, or?
I believe you can access the document online. If not, I can be sure that you get a copy. That's not a problem.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there any other items for commission or staff? Then I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second that.
All in motion, absolutely. All in favor of the motion.
Yes, aye, definitely. We're actually getting out of here before dark.
Yeah.